You are listening to Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Silhouette Decoys, the most technologically advanced silhouette decoys on the market, and these other fine brands. Pit Boss Waterfowl, ducks, dogs, and decoys. Canadian Waterfowl Supply, Canada's #1 source for all your waterfowl needs. And Rig 'em Right, heavily seasoned.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Union 0430 podcast. This is episode 258, and we've got another nice treat for you tonight as we've got Mr. Mike Marino from Marino Decoys coming to us all the way from the great state of Colorado, which, you know, it still blows my mind, Craig. We bring on these fellas from the States, and there's states that are
everywhere.
And they're all over the place, but it's state, like, I wouldn't have thought of Colorado as a hunting state, or as a waterfowl state. I shouldn't say a hunting state. It's a great hunting state. But then Flashback Decoys, that's where they're from, is out of Colorado as well. So it's pretty cool. Mike, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Philly, our other buddy that's usually on the show, he's working tonight. And it seems like we've been missing them a lot lately, Craig, with my scheduling of people that we just can't hook into Phil's schedule properly. But I'm sure he'll be back to bless us with his presence here soon. Mike, buddy, I gotta say, we talked about it a little bit before we hit the record button. And I tell Craig and Phil this all the time, that, you know, sometimes I start second guessing myself and wondering, you know, is the show actually doing well? Is there people listening? Do people know about it? You know, all those things. And sometimes I get in my head a little, and then out of the blue, someone like yourself will reach out and say, you know what, I'd like to be a guest on your show. Do you think we can make that happen? And of course, my answer is always yes for that. And it gives me that little bit extra confidence I need, because sometimes I get in my head when it comes to that. So, very long-winded, but thank you for reaching out, and welcome to the show, buddy.
No, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a little bit of so for our people that are listening, we'll try and fix it up during the post-production. That's a new term I'm throwing around now, Craig, post-production. We're going to, we'll try and fix all
official.
this. But yeah, so official. But we've got a little bit of a lag, and I think that may be because of my internet connection. But we'll get it all squared away. Mike, buddy, let's get right into it. The one thing, and when I went on your website, I really, really loved this whole just one more. This idea of just one more. And when I read it on your website, it just made so much sense. And I love it. And I just, you know, I hand it over to you for you to expand upon it. But talk to us about just one more and how you apply it to your decoy business.
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, thank you. So I was, so let's start back. So, I'm a pastor, and I've been doing kids ministry for about 5 years, and I got into decoy carving, and God must have felt sorry for me, because he just like gifted me with this thing. And I'm not bragging about myself, but I picked it up quick. I've never painted before. I've never carved before. I've never done it. I don't know what color theory is. Okay. Yeah. So, we were, my wife and I, we were driving back from Tennessee from the Ducks Expo. And I said, man, I think I want to create a decoy business. And I'm thinking in my head, and I'm like, you know, Marino decoys and what, gunning decoys or waterfowl arts. I'm like, everyone has that. I'm like, I don't want that. And I was thinking, I was actually thinking about in Matthew where Jesus talks about he leaves the 99 for the one, right? For just one more.
Yeah.
And boom, it clicked. And I'm like,
Right.
that makes sense, because how many times have you been, man, on this incredible hunt and you're like, ah, man, we just need one more bird, right? Just for
Yeah.
like a 7-man limit or my own personal limit.
Right.
And sometimes you get it and sometimes it just never happens. And so, so my, so my whole goal in all this is to lead just one more person to Christ through these decoys. I'm not, it's funny because I get in the blind with guys and, they're cutting up or doing whatever. And they're like, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a
I'm a
pastor and a
pastor.
decoy carver. And they're like, oh, and so they like freak out. I'm like, it's okay. Like, trust me, if a group of birds do it right, I might say a choice few words. But, I just tell them, I said, hey, I said, I am no better than you. I said, I put my pants on the same way, but I
Yeah.
just know, man, I need saving. I'm and we all do. And so, everyone's like, you're trying to be like Phil Robertson. I said, time out. There will only ever be one Phil Robertson. I said, but here's the thing. Phil makes the calls. I could make the decoys. And
Absolutely.
so that's been a blessing. And so you're right. It just kind of fits. And I am now a full-time decoy carver going on 2 months. So it was just time. We just had our third child. I just had another son, and he's 5 months old. And I loved what I did. I love those kids, but it was just time, because some of these guys that I'm in the blind with, you will never see them in a church whatsoever. And so, but also it shows them that, like, I'm not like this super religious person that's going to condemn them. And it's like, they look at me and they're like, you look like like, so, but yeah, I just try to keep it simple, man. And keep it fun. It's, I just know that, man, I'm in need of saving because I can't save myself.
But hey, man, it's all good. I've wanted to bring this up for years, really, because we don't see it in Canada. At least I don't, Craig. When I go around and I'm looking at social media accounts from Canadian hunters, when compared, and I don't want to say it's just in the south of the United States, but it seems those are the majority that I see. But I'll see, Mike, a lot of hunters, especially in the southern states, below Missouri, like Missouri and below. I'll see a lot of people and they'll put a Bible quote in on their Instagram profile, or that they are very comfortable talking about their relationship with God and the whole thing. And I don't see it up here, Craig. Do you see it up here? Do you see any Canadians like no?
No,
And yeah, go for it.
I
Go
was just
for it,
gonna
Craig.
say, like up here, like always, like just different atmosphere, and I find up here, if it's more, if you see somebody that kind of is leaning more that way, to me, a lot of times it almost feels a little more disingenuous. It's almost like it's a, hey, I'm a hunter, and these are kind of the molds I gotta fit into, sort of thing. That's the feeling I
Right.
get up here in
Okay.
those
Okay.
situations.
I get it. I get it. I just, I remember a couple years ago going down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana for the Delta Waterfowl Expo. And on the Sunday morning, like before the doors were open for all the spectators to come in, like the vendors held a quick church service right there in the I'll call it the arena for lack of a better term, and I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
there was a lot of the vendors that went over and did that quick. There was a young girl there singing, there was a dude there playing guitar, she sang, and then a pastor or a minister or whatever it was, he came up on just this little makeshift soapbox stage and sort of, gave a blessing for the day and thanked God and the whole bit. And then everybody just went their own ways and got back to their booth and the doors open. And it just seems, Mike, and I'm not trying to take too much away from you here, but it just seems that, in the southern states, it is, God seems to be a very, very big part of the daily life.
Yeah, when I was in at the Ducks Expo in Tennessee last year, Joey D'Amico, who owns Tecton Game Calls, he's like, "Hey man, you want to go to church tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, we're not gonna have time, but sure, where?" He's like, "No, we're gonna do it at at the expo." I'm like, "That's tight."
Yeah.
I went. JD from Maker's Calls gave a short, awesome little message. And you're right. Like we went on throughout our day, and I think in that southern part of the country, you have the Bible Belt and things like that. And yeah, some people, I don't push Christ on anyone. It's funny because at the bottom of my keels, I always brand a fish at the bottom. It's called an ictus. And so I always brand and so a fish at the bottom and then my logo on the side. And it's a good conversation starter. And I've actually had people who saw that and they're like, "I want a dozen of them from you." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thank you." And they're like, "Hey, you're a Christian brother. I want to support you and your business." I'm like, "Thank you, Lord. I got to buy diapers this month." So,
no, absolutely, man. And I think, let's bring this right around and tie it into waterfowl hunting and chasing ducks. There's this overarching persona that we all think that a duck hunter looks like or a duck hunter acts. And you sort of kind of alluded to it when you were in the boat with these guys and they're like, "Hey, you look just like me." But the wonderful thing about the duck hunting community, and it could be call makers or decoy makers or just people that are building gear or firearms or what, it is just this, and I'll use a Canadian term here, this hockey sock full of different personalities that make up this duck hunting community. And it's got to be, on the outside looking in, it's got to be a really refreshing look to see this cross section of North American personalities, because really that's what it is. Because you'll see people from every walk of life on a Saturday morning at a boat launch.
100%, 100%. And I think, you know, Jesus calls us to go out into all the nations, spreading the gospel. And some people were shocked that I stopped doing, being a kids pastor. They're like, "Well, you can't stop ministry." I'm like, "Listen, I'm a missionary now. You're looking at this all wrong. I'm actually going out and, doing these things. And like I said, I don't force it upon anyone. If someone wants to talk about it, I'll talk about it with them. But the thing that really hit me was that, and like I said before, we're not going to catch these guys in church on a Saturday or Sunday because they're hunting. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, some people think that, the church is the four walls of that building.
Right.
And I'm like, "You're wrong." They're like, "Oh, you can't say that." I'm like, "I just did." And then you're wrong. But man, the church is us, right? And
That's right.
And Jesus says, like, we are the church, and we are the body of Christ, and we're made up of many parts. You got to have the head, you got to have the arms, legs. Man, I'm just a pinky toe, and I'm just a part of it, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And I think, but some people, they're like, "Oh, you're religious." I'm like, "Buddy, you've seen how I acted. Like, I'm just me." Right.
Yeah.
And at some point in time in my life, like, I figured out that, man, I was a sinner. I still am a sinner. And I just need grace, and I need that free gift that Christ did, that he gave his life for me. And some people are like, well, what if there's not a heaven or hell? I'm like, if you take a look at all these other religions, good, bad, or indifferent, I said, let's just say I'm half wrong. And they're like, why do you go and tell people? I said, well, because I love you. I love people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would be a hypocrite if I'm not going out and telling people and trying to keep this all to myself. It's like, and I tell people like this, it's like that honey hole you find with a bunch of greenheads, right? Pintails and you like hybrid pintail mallards, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to all to myself. Well, sure, you could go out there and you can shoot a pintail mallard hybrid, but if you have no one to celebrate it with, it's kind of lame. And so why would I keep this gift all to myself? And if I truly loved people, then I'm going to tell them about it. And so I do. And whether it's in the grocery store, at an expo or whatever it is, if they want to talk about it, hey, we'll have a conversation. But that's just it. At the end of the day, I'm just, people think I'm a holy roller, or just because I say I'm a pastor, they're like, oh, you're religious. I'm like, man, I'm no better than you. I'm like, I've realized that I'm in need of some saving. So,
you're utilizing those different avenues and those different networks to make those opportunities, right? For yourself, for other people. And yeah, you've already, in those situations, you're already sharing something in common with people, and whether you're already out there in the duck blind, you've got that commonality, and whether you share anything beyond that as far as common interests, it's like it's just still that opportunity to be yourselves and to have some sort of connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I first started like carving and painting, and like I said, I you can ask my wife, like, I've never carved anything. I've never painted anything in my life. And for me to pick up something like for this to look like a Drake mallard on the water, right? I get done with this. I'm like, how in the heck did I do that? Or there's some times where I'm carving, I'm like, man, God, I need you to give me the inspiration and insight on how you spoke this into existence. I'm trying to carve this. And the biggest thing is I tell people, in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis 1, it says God spoke everything into existence. And then if you flip over one page, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, it says that God said, let us make man in our image. And it says that he formed us out of the dust of the earth, right? And he breathed the breath of life into us. And it hit me one day, because I do these things called duck devos. I do them about once a week. And throughout this carving process, it's hit me where, man, I created this, right? I love this and I want to take care of it. And it's like, hold on a second. God spoke this into existence. I mean, when you pick up a Drake mallard or a pintail or a canvasback, a blackduck, whatever it is, and you look at the iridescence on it, and I sit there and think, this guy spoke this into existence. I can't even get the paint right. I'm like, goodness, right? But the cool thing is, I realized that we are the only thing that he got his hands dirty with. We're the only thing.
Yeah.
Because it says that he formed us. He didn't form us in his throne. That means he had to get up off his throne, get down in the dirt, get his hands dirty, and create this thing. And the amazing part about all this is that the thing he created, he loves the most. And that's why he sent his son Jesus for us. And that's it. That's it. It's simple. It's so simple. People think like, oh, when you become a Christian, you have all these rules. I'm like, buddy, I have more freedom to do a lot more stuff than I was, not following Christ.
Right.
So, but that's just it, man. I just like to have fun with it. But yeah, I do these things called Duck Devos once a week, and I just share a small snippet of scripture to where anyone who can fog a mirror can understand it, because that's me. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there.
No, that's really cool. I wanted to go back on this whole thing about you've never painted, never carved. And anybody that's listened to the show before, we've had Luke Costello on from Costello Decoys, and we've talked about carving decoys in the past, and I've talked about how nervous I am, and I've got a teal body that's at about 35-40%, and I'm just scared to death now to even take a gouge or draw knife to it because I'm frightened I'm going to take too much off. For you to have never painted, to have never carved, and when I say that, I'm going to take it for you're not a artistic type of person. How much scrap wood did you produce before you were happy with your first decoy?
Yeah. So I know Luke really, really well. I actually reached out to him on Instagram. I'm like, hey, help me make my tail better, please.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. And we've got to become really good friends. And, so the first decoy I carved, I got into it because golden eyes. I got into decoy carving because I ordered some golden eyes and I got them. I looked at them and they were the ugliest things I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, I just paid a bunch of money for that. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, hey, I heard a guy's carving. And so I went and got everyone said cedar. So I went down, got a piece of cedar, and I drew this pattern. I had no idea about patterns yet. And so I just
Right.
drew this golden eye and this head, and I put it on there, traced it out, cut it out on a bandsaw. And I didn't have any like tools that I have now. I used a DeWalt drill and and this bit. And I started going back and forth and like rounding it out, took a knife. And at the end of it, I took a look at it. I'm like, that looks like a chicken. I'm in trouble. and so I've used, I mean, you should see my shop. There's, I guarantee you, there's a box of heads that I tossed off to the side because it didn't look like how I
Right.
wanted it to look. And so yeah, there's a point in time where this is a little blue-winged teal that I'm getting ready to paint. And so there's been points and times where I've carved the body out and I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh man, I took too much off the breast, or man, it doesn't have a rump. I'm like, so I throw it off to the side. And those are the decoys I hunt with. Honestly, I don't hunt over my nice stuff. I don't hunt over anything, because it all goes to my clients. And so I'll take those bodies and slap some paint on it, seal it up, and they work great. Some of them I don't even put a head on.
Well, and you had talked about it. I'm not sure if it was before we hit the record button or not, but you had talked about, today where we see, the plastic decoys, and obviously if you're getting into, mass produce in order to, plastic is the way that it's done, and it's done in a factory, but, our ancestors or the people that came before us, and they started carving decoys for the mantles, or I'm guessing majority mainly so that they could hunt over them.
Yeah.
There's got to be an amazing feeling coming from carving your own, hunting over your own, and then harvesting a bird over your own decoys. There has to be an amazing feeling that comes from that. And I guess what I'm getting, to is that, is that sort of, are you seeing a push now where you're getting to see more people interested in carving because they want to have a little bit more of an intimate feeling relationship with the bird when it comes time to harvest?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I've always said I'm never too busy to stop and talk to someone, help someone.
Right.
And I just think it back because Jesus was never too busy either. Everyone, the biggest question is who was the most important person to Jesus? And some people think, oh, it was the 12, it was Mary, it was John. And I said, nah. I said it was a person that was right in front of him. That's who the most important person was. And so I actually I helped a guy out yesterday. He's like, well, how do you seal? How do you do this? And the thing is, I tell people who want to start carving, like, what's your goal in it? Like, what do you want out of it? Like we were talking about before we hit record, like you want to finish those 6 just to hunt over, right? Some guys want it just so they can hunt over it, or they can, it's that feeling. And so after about 50 goldeneye heads I messed up, I finally got one right. And then I said, well, I'm kind of sick and tired of looking at golden eyes. I'm going to try a canvasback. And so I carved a canvasback, and it was right before season 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah. 2 years ago. And this is it here. And I put it out in the spread, and opening day, there's a hole there. I'll explain that one here in a second. And I had a Drake canvasback land in the decoys with this bird, with this decoy. And I was like flabbergasted. I'm like, there's no way. I had to like rub my eyes. I had to get the binoculars. I'm like, that is a canvasback hanging out with this decoy.
That's
and I
cool.
almost didn't want to shoot it, but I said, I got to shoot it. I got to shoot it. And going and picking that, I have that thing's not going anywhere. I have a picture on my Instagram of it. You have to scroll down and stuff, but it's me holding a Drake canvasback with this canvasback decoy, and that feeling that you're talking about. It's that I tell everyone. Chris Jobman, who I carved a rig for this year, he's like, it's the Marino decoy experience. He's like, this is an experience, and he's right. Like I will never, it's like I'm chasing that high, right? I'm chasing that high again. And I get it every single time. And so I took this bird and I hunted it hard enough to where I shot it in the face. There's still a little bleeding right there. I shot
stuck right in the edge.
Yep. Struck right in the edge. And I'm like, I'm never getting rid of it. And so I retired this decoy. But I put it up in my shop to kind of like remind me why I do this, right? I do it not just to make money. I do it, yes, so I can support my family, but I do it because I want everyone to have that experience. I tell people all the time, I'm like, would I love for you to buy a dozen decoys from me? Absolutely. But I just want everyone to have just one. Right. Because even just one, you still get that experience. But you are right. It's fun. But I tell people, I just ask them why. Why are you wanting to do this? Why are you? They're like, I'm not trying to get into business like you. I'm like, I don't care if you are. Like, I hope you do. But it's just a thing to where it's an experience, and I think for you to finish that little teal rig up of yours, and hey, whether it's anatomically correct or not, but for you to do it though, you'll get that experience, and then that's what drove me, right? That's what drove me was that experience, but also like, yes, this canvasback looks like a canvasback, but it drove me to make it more anatomically correct. The more so for the head, and then we're bouncing around everywhere. But to go back to what you were saying, back in the day, these guys hunted over high density cork decoys. They call them gunner decoys. Yeah. Because it was a very simple paint job. There's no like crazy raised primaries and thin wood. It's a simple block out paint job where they can go hunt it. And if they do end up shooting it, they can patch the holes really quick, throw some paint on it. Excuse me. And then they're hunting again. That's the beauty about these gunning decoys. Now, for me and my wife says I have OCD, but I don't think I do. but I think she's right. But like for this Drake, don't tell her I said that. But this Drake mallard. I mean, it's a feeder. I got to put the primaries on. I got to put that little hint of hue of green that's on a mallard's back. How do the tertials lay in this position? How does it look on the water? Is the head bright enough? And I look at all that, because I'm not gonna let anything leave my shop without it looking and projecting like the real thing.
Hmm. No, it's
Well, like Damien was saying too, like we've talked about it plenty of times, where talking about that extra satisfaction of kind of going from A to Z, like like adding every little thing that you can do to incorporate into the hunt. So like doing your own decoys and things like that. And it's I can't imagine the satisfaction of that, right? Like being able to put that bird out there, have that canvas back come in, and like I'm sure too, like most people, like I'm sure there's the odd guy out there when they start like the first time, they're like, oh yeah, I can do this, I can carve a bird. Most guys or anybody, or their first attempt, they're like, this isn't going to go well at all. So then when you can actually get to a form that looks like something, and then you shoot a bird over it, like, man, that's just got to put you through the roof, right? Like for me, I just can't wrap my head around being able to produce something like that. And so,
Yeah,
especially to hear you say that, yeah, you'd never, because I'm the same way. Like, I'm not an artistic guy. Like, ideas and visuals stuff, it's just not my thing. So, like, to hear somebody like you say, never touched it, never carved, never painted, and to look at your stuff, like, that's crazy.
yeah, it's nuts. And I'm telling you, it's just a gift. And I mean, I tell people this all the time too, just to be funny, whether they think it's funny or not. But I think it's funny. I say, listen, God made a donkey talk, and if He can make a donkey talk, He can help me paint a bird. And so, but yeah, down to to me, do I have to put the primaries on? No. This year for the first time, I actually got to hunt over. I would, so like this, I would consider like this is a nice decoy for me. This is a nice decoy, finished and all this other stuff. But I got to hunt over. I made a 24 bird rig for Chris Aiken. He's a huge dog trainer in
yeah,
Arkansas,
I know Chris.
and
I
he
know who Chris
wanted.
Aiken is.
Oh, okay. So he wanted 24 Drake mallards, just Drake mallards, because he hunts the dark timber. And he goes, I want them to be like January mallards, nice and light. He's like, can you do that? I'm like, sure. So I mixed for like 2 days, like a custom paint, like a gray, and I put it on a bunch of decoys, looked outside, and I was like, it's too light, too dark. Anyway, so I finally ended up with the color, and I was actually able. That was my first like huge order. He was the first one that ordered 24 from me, and so if you look at my website, it's called Red Legs
Yep.
Legs 24 or something like that. So I wanted to kind of honor him in that. So I drove him down there, and he's like, "You want to stay and hunt?" And I'm like, "Absolutely."
Yes.
And
Yes, I would.
and to yes, absolutely. So for the first couple of volleys, I didn't even pull the trigger. Just to that experience to watch these birds come in to these decoys I carved was just incredible. And it's amazing to see, and that's what's cool about carving your own decoys. And you can, January mallards, he hunts dark timber, and so he wanted those things to pop. And when it was like 6:40, and we had like 5 minutes before shooting light or something like that, and those things, I was like, I think I made them too light. I was like, oh no, but they were, man, they were awesome. And so, so to do that for someone and see the excitement and joy they get out of it, it's just another, man, that's what I love. I love seeing people happy.
No, absolutely. But I did
And it's
want to talk.
just cool that you've ended up there.
Yeah, go, Craig.
I was just gonna say, like, it's just cool that again, like the overall experience has landed you in that spot to be in that situation where and it's funny, just coincidence today. I just started listening to new podcasts because like I'm just listening to more stuff about dog training and that. So I just started listening to the Flatlander Kennels podcast today. So it's like it's funny. I was listening to like Chris Jobman all day today as I was driving, and he was talking about your decoys, and he was telling the story about you carving that rig, driving it down there, and hunting.
Yeah.
And but yeah, just so cool that deciding to do something like that has landed you in that sort of situation that otherwise you wouldn't have found yourself in. Like,
No, and that's just like uh, I could, and I told those guys, I'm like, man, I don't need to hunt. Like, I just want to see them on the water, just so I can see what I can do better or whatever. And Chris Jobin, he's great. He's so I actually did a dog earn for his son. His son's dog, phenomenal dog, Spank passed, and he said, "Hey, would you do a dog earn for me?" I said, "Absolutely." So what I did is I put some of his son's dog's ashes in some shotgun shells and inserted them in the bottom of the decoy. And his son took it out this year and hunted, with his dog again. And man, that's like, what a healing process that is. And I got a call the other day from I got a call the other day from Chris, and I get the honor and privilege to carve an urn for a phenomenal dog that just passed. His name was Crown. He was the first dog who picked up all 42 species of North American waterfowl. I mean, like I feel like I should. I mean, and here's it. I'm saying that not to brag because I don't feel like I deserve it, right? Um, uh, it's like why? It's like why me? Like, and you're right. Like all these opportunities get to come up, and man, I'm just so I'm so grateful and blessed to be able to do stuff like that because not only is it providing for my family, but I look past that. Like I get to help this guy heal. Like this guy gets to take his dog hunting again, and that's huge because I got 3 labs, and when in Colorado we usually typically have a decent season. But this season, I pulled the trigger 3 times, and that was it. And it was horrible. But our dogs, like we ask our dogs to do so much. Like I'm not gonna go out in -1 degree weather and then jump in the water. Like you're
Yeah,
crazy, right?
that's right.
And so just to help memorialize that dog or any dog, is incredible. I just did a wood duck urn for a gentleman. I finished up a pintail urn, and I got some redheads and stuff to do like that. But it's I get the experience now to help these guys, kind of heal.
Well, Mike, I've said it a million times, and again, I'll preface it by saying I'm not a hunter of anything else really other than ducks and geese. But I honestly don't think that there's a more intimate, close relationship with the hunt like a waterfowl hunter. So, between you calling the bird, you having to react to the bird and what it's doing, to you making your own calls, to you making your own decoys, to every day trying to trick these birds, these animals with a brain the size of a pea that seem to outsmart us the majority of the time. When you talk about carving the decoys, and so you carve your own decoys, and it feels good that you've carved your own and you're harvesting birds over your own, but then throw in the dog element, and now you can take your best friend, your best hunting buddy with you on another hunt. That is on another level of intimacy with the hunt. And Craig's got a dog, I've got dogs, you've got dogs. It's really only been the last maybe 3 years that I've even known that dog-earned decoys were a thing. I had no idea until I was at West hunting, and my buddy that I was there, he had one for a dog that he had passed, that had passed behind him and stuff. This is very long-winded, but when you say you don't feel that you're deserving of it, I look at it at a different way, and I look at it as though if people are reaching out to you to memorialize their best hunting friend and something for them to be able to put, that says an awful lot about the work that you put in, the care that you put in, and there's an extremely high amount of trust in you and what you do for them to even reach out. So, I know you said you're not bragging and you don't want to brag or anything like that, but listen, man, when Chris Aiken can reach out to anybody in North America and ask for a rig of decoys. Chris Aiken, if you're a dog guy, everybody knows Chris Aiken. Almost everybody that's trained a dog has watched one of his videos or read one of his posts about dogs. When Joey D'Amico reaches out to you and asks you if you could provide a prize for a calling competition, that says a lot about you and the product that you're producing, buddy. So I got to tell you, congratulations, because
Thanks.
for a dude in Colorado that had never ever painted, that had never ever carved, as a pastor, and I'm not taking anything away from you as a pastor, but it just, for you to be sitting where you are today and talking about the things that you're talking about today, it's amazing. It really is amazing, and it's amazing. And if anybody is listening or watching to this show, it gives just that extra little push for somebody that's on the fence on, should I try this? Yeah, go for it, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. That I didn't think about it like that, honestly. Yeah, I mean, hey, I have these guys mail me their dog's ashes. That's huge. And for me, it's always a sobering moment for me too when I get to that step, right? That's the last step so typically, this last dog I did, it was a wood duck. I carved the decoy, and then I cut that decoy right in half. Along the bottom, I hollow it out, put the dog in there, and that, like, it's it, it's not just work, right? It's not just like, hurry up and get it done. It's like, man, this is someone's loved one.
Right.
This dog's was his, their best friend, like you said, and it's just sobering, to go like, man, this person entrusted me with this,
100%.
and I'm doing I'm doing another dog run for Joey D'Amico's friend, and it's crazy. And like you said, Chris Aiken, I about, like, pooped my pants, man, when he called me, and I'm like, "Who are you?" He's like, "Chris Aiken." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I watched you, like, these
Yeah,
are the guys that, like, I grew up watching, and, like, I got
absolutely.
so yeah, you're right. I have, and like to share a blind with that man was absolutely incredible. Same thing with Chris Jobman. Like, those two guys are phenomenal men. Like, I cannot say enough good things about them. And it was so cool, uh, because I always like to learn. And so, man, I didn't even pick up my calls. Like, I wanted to hear them call. I wanted to see them set the spread. Like, I'm like, here you go. Like, you do it, because I want to see how you guys hunt and what I can pick up from them. And they always want to see people, successful. They want to see, people succeed. And you're right. Just being in the blind with them, pulling the trigger was just a bonus. I just sharing a blind with them was phenomenal. I cannot say enough. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm I I I always remind myself, and I told my wife this, and I said, it doesn't matter. I'm not looking to get famous, man. I'm not looking to get, if that happens, great. But it, I'm not going to change. Like money can't, money's not going to change me. Winning whatever's not going to change me. Like I know who I am, and and sometimes I have to remind myself of that.
Yes, you do.
Again, yeah, because you could get lost.
Absolutely, you can.
We've all been there. I've been there, but I always remind myself, like, no matter if I've done the best carving of my life or the best paint job, like I can always continue to be better. One, I can always learn something. I can never. I told myself I I'm if I'm in someone's blind, I'm the dumbest guy there, right? I've never hunted, but like I just that's just me. But always too, like this whole journey has just been incredible, and I feel like God has now directed my path this way. And I told my wife, I said, man, I had to apologize to her one night, and she's like, "Why are you saying sorry for?" I'm like, "I didn't do anything wrong." So I said, but sometimes I feel um, like I feel guilty because I love this stuff. I think about duck hunting in July and August. Like I mean, I'm obsessed with it, and I said I get to do this now. It's not only a love of mine, but now it's my job. And I said, man, I'm sorry that like I have to go and do. And she's like, and I'll say this, and I've said this on every other, well, the other couple podcasts I've done, that without my wife, I and yeah, I get choked up, and I don't care if people make fun of me, but like without that woman,
That's right.
I would not be where I'm at today. She has. I told her. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna start carving decoys," and she's like, she looked at me and laughed, and she's like,
Of
okay.
course.
And I would always come in and I'm like, take a look at this, look at what I did, and she always supported me. Um, but I'll tell you what, like without her, um, I couldn't do it, right? Not only because, that old saying is behind every great man, there's an even greater woman. And
Mm-hmm.
by golly, I cannot say, I just got back from a trip, and she's holding down the fort with 3 kids. We have a 5-month-old, we have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and then a 5-month-old. And yeah, I'm saying 2. I'm like, I wouldn't do it. I'm like, I wouldn't do that. And okay. But uh, she she is she's incredible, and the thing is to have someone to have someone push you and keep you going. And even when there's times where I'm like, man, I don't know if I should be doing this. Maybe I should just go get a job. Maybe I should. Maybe I told her one time, I said, maybe God got this wrong. And someone picks up the phone and calls me. It's like, hey, I want a dozen decoys from you. I want an urn from you. And I'm like, both of you are right, I guess. So,
Yeah.
but no, she's great. Yeah, I can't. And the thing is, I think about this too. Like, man, our wives, especially duck hunting wives, right? Like, they're amazing because we get to, we get up early in the morning, we make a bunch of noise. I know I wake up my kids, and my wife has to deal with it. But it's just, I think without
It's a
them,
long season of putting up with that.
it's a long season putting up with that. And, this year I traveled a lot more, and, she's just been so gracious and supportive of it. But, when I get home, I try to do as much as I can for her and the kids. And, but now what's cool is, my 6-year-old son will come out, and we'll do something together, or he'll paint with me. And that's another experience in itself. It's something that he will remember for the rest of his life. And
Absolutely.
now I opened up pre-orders for the 2026-2027 waterfowl season to get people on the books. And this guy called me and he said, "Hey, I want a dozen decoys." And I always love to talk to people. And I'm like, "Okay, great, but why?" Like, they're like, "What do you mean why?" I'm like, "Why are you buying a dozen?" And I said, "I just want to hear your story." And he's buying a dozen of them. So for his son, who's super big into waterfowl, but he goes, I want to, so he has them from me. It's a gift from me. And, these things will last forever. Um, uh, a guy from California said, "Hey, can you laser engrave my name, my initials on them?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely," because he's going to give those to his son. And it's just one of those things that when I tell people this, every decoy has a story, and
Yeah.
it's true
Well,
because
and the other
someday
thing, Mike,
he's going to pick up these.
sorry, buddy, I cut you off, but the other thing, and this is the thing that is impressive when it comes to decoy carving, is that every single decoy is different. Every single one has its own, because you're not mass produced. It's not a machine. You're a human being, and you're going off of touch, feel, look, that sort of deal. So every single decoy you carve is different. The paint is different. The colors, there's just so much difference in every single decoy. And if you can, if you're able to, let's say, to call you up and say, "Mike, I want a dozen decoys, and I want this, and I want my name lasered in, because my goal is that in 10 to 15 years, or however long it is, I want to pass these down to my child." Again, that's an extremely high amount of trust that someone is putting into, because so let's be real here. To buy a dozen hand carved decoys, it's not a cheap process. It's not cheap. So your hard earned money you're handing over, and the importance, and I can only speak for myself. If I had something that I wanted made so that I could hand down to my son, that is something that that's a decision I'm not gonna make lightly, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
with all of this stuff, with your wife supporting you, and your kid coming into the shop and watching you, like that's things that's what life is supposed to be, right? Like life is going to be hard, and there's going to be struggles, and there's going to be hurdles, and all of these things, because no one's going to get through life unscathed. But the it's the supporting wife, the child that wants to be with you and wants to learn, and then the overall love and acceptance of what you're doing as a hunter, and taking the life of one of these animals. And I don't want to get too spiritual or anything like that on the show,
Oh, yeah.
but there is a full spectrum of feelings and thoughts that go into this. And hand carved decoys is just another step in this waterfowl journey, and this love of what we do, that just makes it so miraculous and stuff. And Craig, you know, you got two boys, and you're two, but like my son and my daughter, they are not interested in hunting whatsoever. It's not who they are. That's not their thing. They're very sporty and that sort of thing. But getting up at 4 a.m. and going sitting in a boat is not their idea of a good time. Craig, you got two boys, and they love hunting, love the outdoors. So,
Yeah.
for you, I can just imagine you thinking the same thing. if you were trying to do something where you're going to pass down the Cam and Caleb.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like when I think about stuff like this, because like, and I've talked about it lots of times before. Like I'm a really sentimental sort of guy, an emotional guy, and it's funny with you talking about like the urns and that, right? You think of hunters out there covered in mud, burly looking dudes, but like talk about a bunch of emotional basket cases if something happens to their dog or whatever too, right? Like it's so
Yeah.
like, and again to kind of go back to what you're to you going saying like, you know, you get to be part of that, and Damon used the word the intimacy of it. It's like it's got to be, I don't know the right word, like I'm gonna say satisfying, but validating
Rewarding.
that when you get to be involved with something like that, yeah, that you that choosing to go this route or following this route that was put out in front of you, that it's got to really be validating that you listened and you made that right choice, and that it's brought you here, and that you get to be involved with something like that. And for me, like that's something I can't even fathom what that must mean to somebody like you to be able to be pulled into that.
Yeah, that's so for Christmas, I had a guy reach out to me because you said you have two boys, and he has two twin boys. I think they're about 4, and he's like, "Hey, can you carve me 2 teal, a green wing, a green wing drake, and a blue wing drake?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." I said, "What is it for?" He's like, "It's for my 2 boys," and you know, like, man, his sons are gonna have that forever. It's just stuff like that I just man, I truly enjoy doing. And that's just it. My whole thing is I just want to carve just one more, if Lord willing. And you know, it's been good. It's been really good. Um, you know, and you're right. Yeah, people do spend, you know, their hard earned money on it. And like I said, that's why there's some guys that would never put the primary feathers on it, and that's okay. That's okay. But um, but for me, I want it to be the best. I want it to be the best, and um, you know, I get too nitpicky sometimes, and and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's just a gift that I've been given. I'm no one special. I'm just a guy who loves ducks, loves duck hunting, um, and and I just want to share that experience with everyone. And and like I said, you know, every year guys get new guns, new waders. Guys are financing waders now. I mean, right? And I think too, because I always tell people this. Everyone, like, we desire to be a part of something, and so um so you look at, you know, you get new guns, new waders, a new rig. I'm like, imagine you showing up with just 6 hand carved decoys. Like, your buddies are gonna go, "What in the world?" Like,
Yeah,
that trumps their guns, their this, their that.
absolutely.
And that's just
100%.
because it takes it back to the roots.
I can tell
Takes it
you,
back to the roots. Like, that's what.
yeah, I can tell you that of all the people that I've hunted with over the years, and thinking back of all the characters that I've hunted with, if I would walk in with a half dozen hand curved decoys, I can promise that every one of them would say something along the lines of, "Man, I am so honored that I get to hunt over your hand curved decoys today." Because if I walked onto a hunt and one of my friends had them, that's what I would say. I would be like, "Man, thank you. Like, I can't believe I
Yeah.
get to hunt over your like decoys that you curved. Like that's just insane." It's pretty crazy. Mike, we're at that 60-minute mark, and I'm gonna cut this off,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No problem.
but I want you to come back on, because I don't think we didn't even really get a chance to talk about carving. We talked a lot about why you're doing it, and which is
Yeah.
great. It's awesome, and I love it, and I'm making for a great show. But I think we have a lot more that we can dive into with you, that we can make a couple more episodes,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I would love to be able to do it, and I'd shut up, and then Craig can ask more questions, and it to be it to make for an all around better show. So with that being said, let's do a quick around the table, and then we'll call it for this episode. But then I do want to offer up the invite for you to come on again, and let's keep this
Anytime,
going because
anytime.
I love it. I love it. Craig, to you first, buddy. And if you
Thank you.
got something, questions or anything like that, Craig, go ahead. We'll still go. But if you're good, we'll end her.
Yep. No, Mike, it was great to meet you and talk with you. And like I said, it was a weird coincidence that I started listening to a brand new podcast today, and every single episode of it, they were talking about you and talking about your stories and your rig. So just strange timing. Seems a little weird to me, but but pretty cool.
No.
But no, it was good talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you too. I really appreciate it. No, I would love to come back.
That's cool. Craig, talk about. Hold on, go back to that. I want to hear more about this, Craig. So you start on a
I
new
talked about it a bit.
podcast.
You'd stepped away, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was like just not a new podcast, but just one I came across today. It's the Flatlander Kennels.
Okay.
And so yeah, they I think I listened to like four or five episodes of it today, and they kept talking about Mike's decoys and especially the urns, and they talked about the one that you had done for their son, and talked about having different shotgun shells over because they were different gauges for every gauge that he had used that he had killed birds with, and that dog had retrieved. So, but yeah, it was just funny. I'd never listened to this podcast before. I listened to it today, and they were talking about Mike all day long. So,
hey, listen, if you're a non-believer, that got to tell you something right there. I'm just putting it out. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If anybody's a non-believer, that's a sign right there. Mike, to you, buddy.
No, I just want to thank you guys just for the opportunity again, just to come on here, and just let me talk about decoys and God. And, it was an honor for me. But if anyone has any questions about what I do, how I do it, if they want to get into carving, I mean, they can reach out to me on my social medias. So they can find me on Instagram at marinodecoys.com. I mean, that's my website, marinodecoys.com, or just Marino Decoys or Mike Marino. I mean, again, I'm never too busy to talk to someone. And but if someone wants something special done, yeah, I'd be more than willing to do it. And just thank you for the opportunity.
Buddy, thank you for coming on and joining us and helping us make a great episode for our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 258 of the Union 0430 podcast. We are not experts. We'll never pretend to be. We're a group of friends that love hanging out, talking anything bird hunting, duck hunting. Surround yourself with good people and good things will happen. Big love. Talk to you next time. Okay, Mike, don't log off yet.
Okay.